A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. These are the days of Fatimah Zahra salamullahi alayha, and as the days of her martyrdom have approached, we are talking about the life of Fatimah Zahra salamullahi alayha. And in the previous 4 sessions, we have gone into answering some of the questions pertaining her martyrdom and the atrocities that were carried out against her. Today we will go into more details of what were the problems that she faced and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and their defense on that. It is mentioned that people wanted allegiance. The government wanted, the first caliph wanted the allegiance from Imam Ali alayhi salam. And when they continuously asked him to pay allegiance outside and he refused, they decided to come to the doors and they wanted him, they sent message after message for him to come to the mosque and pay allegiance, and he refused all the time. But there are a number of people that have been mentioned in the history who came to the door of Fatimah Zahra salamullahi alayha to burn the door down and to pull out Imam Ali alayhi salam. We will not go into the details of the names, but there are a number of people who are mentioned who came to the door. And Sheikh Abbas Qumi, Bahtul Hasan, and many other scholars, great scholars, have gone into full details of what happened. When the people came to the door, it is mentioned Imam Hassan alayhi salam, whenever he saw some of the people he saw at the door in Medina when he grew up, he would stop, and the tradition says that whenever he saw some of those people, he would turn his face towards the wall and he would allow them to pass by. And sometimes some people asked him, why do you stop and why do you not look at them? He said, whenever I look at them, it reminds me of my mother. It reminds me of the time what she went through. It reminds me of the problems that my mother faced and the time when they attacked our house. So that's why it angers me so much so that blood comes into my eyes. So I do not wish to see them, and that's why I turn and I allow them to just pass by so I don't have to look at them. So the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they were badly hurt, and Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha in sermon number 202 goes into more detail of saying that the atrocities against Fatima salam alayha will not allow me to sleep after this. What she went through, being the noblest of the women, the atrocities against her has deprived me of sleep. Whenever I close my eyes, I see Fatima. So when they entered the house, they pushed the door down and the door dropped on her. Some have written that when the door dropped, she was behind the door and it pushed her against the wall, and the door, it broke her ribs. The others have said that she dropped on the floor, and as she dropped, the door dropped on her. And the people, when they were stepping on the door and going inside, they were stepping, and she was below it as well. So they stepped on it and went inside. And she miscarried her child, Mohsin, salam alayhi. When they went inside, they brought Imam Ali alayhi salam out, and when he did not wish for them to address the way they were addressing Fatimah Zahra, that even if you are there, the way they were addressing her, he pushed them out. He helped her get up, and they were all holding on to him, and she held on to his abba. And one person hit her with the back of the sword on her hand, and another person lashed her on her arm. So the two marks, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have mentioned that Imam Ali did not forget till the end of his life. Some traditions mention that when Imam Ali alayhi salam at night was giving ghusl to Fatimah Zahra, when he was crying loudly, when asked by Fadha, why are you crying so loudly? I have not seen you cry so badly. He said, because of the wounds that I have seen. And why did she make a will that give me ghusl at night? He said, Fatima covered herself. She did not tell me how badly she was wounded. So she had broken her ribs. They say that if you break a bone, each time you move that bone, you feel pain. But if you break a rib, each time you take a breath, you feel the pain. So she continuously felt the pain, and she had a mark on her hand or on her arm. But so it says her hand, she had a mark. They took Imam Ali alayhi salam, and after what had happened to her, she could not, when she lied down, she needed help to lie down and she needed help to get up. Some traditions mention she could not move to her right side or her left side when she was lying down because of the pain. She could not move over. She needed help. Imam Ali alayhi salam used to help her get up and used to help her to lie down because she was in so much pain. He would ask her and she would intentionally not mention to him what she was going through. So in her life she had gone through all of those pains. But after that she went to the court, and I will mention the sermon in the next session, the sermon that she gave. But she went and she asked for her right, and she was, they mentioned that her chador, her dress was dragging onto the ground, so she could not walk properly. And she came to the court of the first caliph and she addressed him and said at length why has this happened. I will mention that in the next sermon. But when she comes back, then she remains ill, and she mentions her pains and the things that she's going through to the ladies that are around her. The Hashemite ladies come, the ladies from Bani Hashim, they come, and she mentions to them, and it spreads in the whole of Medina that she is displeased with certain people, some people. In Ibn Qutayba Danwari's book Al-Imamat wa Siyasa, in volume number 1, page number 37, it mentions that she was not pleased with the first and the second caliphs. And the women were talking about this, and it was talk of the town, and the women mentioned it to their husbands, and the husbands mentioned it to other men, and the whole of Medina knew that Fatimah salamu alayha is displeased with the first and the second caliphs. So when they both heard, they said, we want to talk to Fatimah. They said to Imam Ali alayhi salam, according to Ibn Qutayba Danwari and other historians, that he said, he's a Sunni writer, that they both said to Imam Ali alayhi salam, we want to talk to Fatimah. He said no, he refused. They said no, we want to talk to her, we want to find out why she's angry with us. So they came in, and when they entered from the door, Imam Ali first came in, and he said to Fatimah Zahra that the Shaykhain want to talk to you, the two first caliphs want to talk to you. She said, I do not wish to talk to them. And he said, well, now they have come to the door and they want to say something. So she said, okay, help me get up. And she sat down on the bed facing the wall, and she said, place a cover behind on the bed. So Imam al-Islam covered the bed, from the top to the bottom, and she faced the wall, and they came from the door from the other side, and they both came inside, and they said, the first caliph said to Fatimah salamu alayha, we have heard that you are angry with us. And she said, Ama sami'tuma Rasulullah yaqul, have you not heard, Abi Rasulullah yaqul, have you not heard my father, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say that Fatima bad'atu minni, man adaha faqad adani. Fatima is a part of me, whoever displeases her has displeased me, whoever displeases me has displeased Allah, and whoever displeases Allah has entered hell. They both said, yes, we've heard the Holy Prophet say this. She said, have you heard my father say, Inna Allah yaghdabu li ghadabi Fatimah wa yarda li ridaha? Indeed, Allah is angered with anger of Fatima and is pleased with pleasure of Fatima. They said, yes, we both heard. She said, then remember that you have both hurt me and I am angry with both of you. And so long as I live, after every prayer, I will tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am angry with you. And when I see my father, the first thing I will say to him that I will complain against both of you. When they both heard this, they came running out of the, well, not both of them. The first caliph ran out of the house and he started crying. He said, I don't want anything. And the second caliph walked out slowly and he said, don't mention it to anyone, don't speak about this. Even on the deathbed of the first caliph, he said, I wish I did not do three things. And one of them, he says, I wish I did not take fire to the door of Fatima. So he could not forget that event until his death, and they both remember that Fatima salam alayha expressed her grief and her anger at them. So she was displeased with them and she was angry with them for what had happened. She had lost her Muhsin. The Holy Prophet named his grandson. He said, I named Hassan, my first grandson as Hassan, my second grandson as Hussein, and I'm naming this child as Muhsin. That he will not live. So he did not live, and today descendants of the Holy Prophet are from Hassan and Hussein alayhimus salam. So basically they killed 1/3 of the descendants of the Holy Prophet. So some of the things that happened and unfolded after that, I want to very quickly mention in this session. They used the incident and said that she is provoking the people against the first caliph. So she used to at night with Imam Ali alayhi salam and with Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam go to the doors of the people of Medina, especially to the houses of Ansar, and she would knock on the door, and she would ask Imam Ali to knock on the door, and when they would come out, the people, it had become known to the people that Imam Ali every night goes out with Fatima and Imam Hassan and Hussain alayhi salam, and they would come out and she would say, do you remember Ghadir? Do you remember that my father took allegiance from you? And they would all say, yes, we all paid allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib. She would say, then why have you left Ali ibn Abi Talib? They would say, no, okay, fine, we would support him. She would say, okay, then listen to what Ali wants from you. Imam Ali alayhi salam would tell them that next morning for Fajr, come to a masjid outside Medina and come with a sword, and I will tell you what to do. Wait for my commandment. For many, many weeks and months, Imam Ali alayhi salam would go and pray alone and come back, and Fatima Zahra salam alayha would wait for him and ask him, what happened, Ya Ali? Ya Abul Hassan. She would not call him by his name. She would always say, Ya Abul Hassan, father of Hassan, what happened? He would say, I went and prayed alone and I came back. No one came. So every day she would ask the people to remember the will of the Holy Prophet and to pay allegiance to Imam Ali alayhi salam and to revive that allegiance to Imam Ali alayhi salam and support him. So this was the case until she lived, and every day she would tell the ladies about the difficulties that she was going through. Two other atrocities very quickly I want to mention. One was her crying. She cried a lot, and she said words, poetry, Subbat alayya masa'ibun la annaha, Subbat ala al-ayyam yasirna layaliya, that O Father, after you, atrocities and problems came down onto me, Subbat alayya masa'ibun la annaha, that if they had come down onto the days, they would turn into black nights, and if they had come, the problems they had come, so many problems had come to a mountain that those mountains will break into pieces. So because she went through so many atrocities, she turned old. When she would go to the houses at night in fully covered, the people would say, who is that lady with Ali ibn Abi Talib? People would look out of their houses looking at Fatima Zahra, who is that lady, elderly woman? because she had become so weak that her back was not straight, and she was holding a stick in her hand. People would say that looks like an elderly woman. They would say, no, this is Fatimah Zahra. So she had gone through so many problems that her head had turned white, and she had, as if she had broken her back. And she used to cry day and night. Especially she would go out, some say she would ride with her two sons on some animals and go to Uhud, or she originally she would go out to Jannatul Baqi or probably Maidan Uhud, to her uncle's grave, Hamza, salamun alayh, and she would cry. And sometimes, there was a tree, she would sit down under that tree and cry, and people cut down the tree, so she stops crying. And one day, Imam Ali alayhi salam, she came home and she was crying. Imam Ali asked her, why are you crying so much? She said, because today I used to sit down under a shade and cry. People of Medina have cut down the tree that I used to sit down under. So Imam Ali alayhi salam made Baytul Huzn. He, with his own hands, he built something of clay that she would sit down under the shade of that, and he called it Baytul Huzn, the house of sorrow. So he built a small shade for her that she could sit down under and cry. Sheikh Abbas Qumi says, how did the people of Medina know that she was crying? Because the people of Medina came to Imam Ali alayhi salam and complained to him and said, Ya Ali, tell Fatima to cry either during the day or during the night. She cries so much that we can't sleep now. Sheikh Abbas Qumi says that she did not cry so loudly that the people of Medina could hear, and it is not possible that all of Medina could hear her, even if she did cry loudly. Then how did the people know? They say that whenever she cried, and she would cry every so often she would cry that as if there was an earthquake, or the land of Medina would tremble. So they knew that there is something wrong in Medina, that Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha is crying. So that's how they knew that there is, something is wrong. There are traditions that say that there was a black, even during the day, everything had turned black when Karbala happened because of the atrocities carried out against Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Likewise, after the atrocities carried out against Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha, the environment of Medina had changed so much so that people could feel and sense oppression and the dhulm that they had carried out against Ahlul Bayt, that they could sense it, they could feel it, that the atmosphere in Medina is grievous. You could sense the grief in Medina because of Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha. In the last part, I want to very quickly mention that Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam, they all remembered the difficulties that she went through. Each one of the Imams, they mention what Hazrat Fatimah salam alaiha went through, and they remember the difficult times, and they have all carried out the remembrance for her. And she herself calls a few women to herself, like Fidda, like Asma binti Umais, Asma, who was later on married. Asma married Imam Ali alayhi salam. So Asma knew very closely what Fatimah salam alaiha was going through. And Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha said to Asma that one thing that I dislike is that I worry a lot about my funeral, that when my funeral happens, people would know my height, and people would look at me. She said, well, because Asma was married to Ja'far al-Tayyar. Ja'far al-Tayyar was, salamun alayhi, was the older brother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. She said, when we migrated from Mecca to Habasha, to Abyssinia, I saw that the Christians in Abyssinia carry the bodies of their deceased in coffins. And Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha liked that idea, and she said to Asma, I like that idea, please make a coffin for me. I want my body to be carried in a coffin. And Asma made a coffin for Fatimah Zahra salam alaiha to be carried in, and so you can imagine that all of those problems that she was going through, even then she talks to the different ladies, she calls upon the different ladies that were around her. Ayman, she was very close to Ayman, who was also close to Rasulullah and her mother. So and she talks to Fatima bint. So many different women she's talking to. She reminds them of the difficulties that she's going through. She had gone through physical torture, when the door dropped on her and she lost her child. But more than the physical torture, it was the psychological torture, the mental torture that she went through. And that was that she saw her husband deprived of his right and remaining at home. When he went out, one day a lady came to Fatima Zahra and said to Fatima Zahra salam alaiha, "Oh Fatima, today I noticed that people don't even do salam to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. When he goes out, people don't even greet him. People don't even say Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. They don't even say that." She was so badly upset. She cried and cried that when Imam Ali alayhi salam came home, he said, "What's wrong? Why are you so upset now?" She said, "Ya Abul Hasan, is it true what ladies have told me, that when you go out, men do not even do salam to you, they do not even greet you?" He put his head down. She said, "What's wrong? Tell me, I want to know." He said, "Not only that, people don't even do salam to me. When I say salam to the others, they don't even return my salam. It is wajib to answer the salam of another mu'min." He said, "When I say assalamu alaikum to other people, they don't even say wa alaikum assalam to me. They don't even answer my salam. They don't even look at me. They don't even acknowledge that I exist, or I'm a believer, or I'm outside. People stop greeting the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam." Her husband went through the most difficult of times. So that psychological torture for her was the most difficult. Her two sons would come home and say, "Children, say things to us, that your father claims that it is his right. Why does he say that?" Her sons and her daughters were many times not having food at home. Her servants had been thrown out of the from the positions they held, and she knew what was coming for her daughters, what was coming for her sons. The Holy Prophet had told her what was going to happen to Hassan alayhi salam and what was going to happen to Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala, and her daughters will be taken to the streets of Kufa and Damascus, and that was some of the most difficult things that she was going through. But all throughout her life in Mecca and in Medina, all the problems she faced, she did not complain to the Almighty. She said, "Oh Allah, just remember that I grieved, I cried, but I still practiced." And to Imam Ali alayhi salam, she said, "When you bury me, then sit where you bury me for a while. Do not leave me straight away." Inshallah, we'll talk about her sermon and her shahadat in the oncoming sessions. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.